about other storage device going to be the topic of discussion today, that is hydrogen energy storage. How you are going to store the hydrogen? Definitely, do we need to store the hydrogen, or is there any other option? Because in the year of exactly 1972, I would like to address this information. The venturing of hydrogen storage system was started initially in German laboratory. So what has happened is, once they stored the hydrogen directly in the form, we all know it is highly flammable. So what has happened, it has created a very big threat to the laboratory, and the lab was completely bursted out. So then people have stopped their research on hydrogen, and they've came to a conclusion that hydrogen energy is nowhere going to play any role in the coming days. So let us not do any research upon that. And they've stopped that research in 1975 itself. So after that, several other European and Scandinavian countries, they have taken some effort to take back the hydrogen storage, and then they started developing a concept called fuel cells. Of course, you should be knowing what is fuel cell, but that we will just look upon. Just to give a preface of hydrogen, as we all very aware, hydrogen has the highest energy content. So whenever we talk about some forms of energy or some energy production modalities, the energy content, that is per unit mass, how much quantity or how much kg of energy could be stored in particular system is very important. Why? Because you imagine our human system as a body. Okay, in that whatever food you are consuming will be stored in your tummy. Right, that energy will be busted, or that will be used during the time when you're doing some work. You will be burning some calories. That's what people say. If you're very fat or stout, whatever food you are consuming, you are not burning the calories. Instead, you're keeping that inside, that makes you to gain more weight. So in that cases, there is a very good correlation between the human body and all the engineering physics or engineering subjects that we study. So more particularly, energy storage system has a very good correlation between the human system and different types of storage technologies. So how you are going to balance it? So how much quantity of energy is generated in terms of kilowatt hour? So for the given particular duration of time, if you are giving this much input of energy, how much quantity of output energy you are going to get from that particular system, which means that determines your efficiency of the system. Probably efficiency is very important. That we call it as round trip efficiency. For one single cycle, how much input you are giving to the system and how much output you are going to get from the system, that is called as round trip efficiency. So that depends on several other factors also, influencing factors. How much amount of fuel you are taking, how you are able to handle the fuel. In between, when you process that fuel, where you lost that energy, that is called as energy conversion losses, both in production part as well as in storage part, as well as during the process of discharge. So hydrogen storage is also again storage system. So normally we can say hydrogen is a very, an ordinary light gas when it is being compared to natural gas, when it is operated in very ordinary temperature and ordinary pressure condition. So don't have a very big imagination that hydrogen is going to be a very big threat. No, even in laboratory level, we can operate hydrogen in a very, very safest manner. So people can start establishing your own hydrogen laboratory in a small prototype level, such that you can conduct some minimum experiment of splitting the water as hydrogen and oxygen molecules and how to store the hydrogen in a better way for different applications. So again, I have told all these things. No, the flame speed of hydrogen burning in air is much greater than the this natural gas, and the energy required to initiate the combustion is very less. So when we talk about combustion process, again, the combustion process, the calorific value of the fuel is very, very important. At the same time, when you burn that particular fuel, how much quantity of useful energy or useful work in terms of thermodynamics, if we speak, what is the quantity of useful energy you can retrieve for the given work input? That is going to be very, very important to determine the performance of your system. So again, on the whole, we know it is non-polluting. All the things are plus point in hydrogen energy, because hydrogen energy alone is having the capability, because using fuel cell you can get water, you can get electricity, you can get heat energy. So there is possibility to generate 3 different demands only using hydrogen. But that doesn't mean I don't say using solar or bio or wind you cannot generate all these things. It is possible, but directly the conversion losses are very, very minimum when you talk in terms of hydrogen energy. That is my only discussion, because you have the possibility to generate all the 3 outputs which is required in the present demand. Why should we go for multiple systems to meet all our demands? We can have one single system to meet all our demands. To be very clear, or to be very precise, normally we all are faculties, I believe. Every faculty will have a gut feel inside that instead of having 3 different students inside the class with different capabilities, if we have one good student who can manage everything, what we feel that we can give the responsibility to this particular person who can manage everything and who can give successful benefit or deliverable. That is what is the case of hydrogen also. But besides all these things, you should ask me one question: why there is, even then there are so many benefits in hydrogen energy, why still we are not going for hydrogen? The only answer for hydrogen is because of the safety threat and safety issues, because it is highly flammable and highly explosive, which doesn't makes us to move towards hydrogen energy till today. And then it is still sitting inside the research laboratory, and it is not taken to commercial market similar to your solar energy. Because solar photovoltaic systems, we have seen in several houses, they have installed for 1 kilowatt or even for 1 megawatt. We have seen several plants. It takes nearly 6 to 7 crores of installations, and with that you meet all your power demands. Almost all the industries and residential people are now marching towards solar energy. But whereas this fuel cell and hydrogen is a very good alternate for power generation, water generation, and even for transportation, when there is multiple benefits for hydrogen, but even when we are not able to move towards hydrogen, it's only because of the safety issue. So now you have to put a mark inside your mind that how to make this hydrogen a more safety system so as to meet all our demands. That should be the first research aspect that we have to think upon, and then we have to work upon. Okay, of course, the different methods of production of hydrogen. As I already told, there are a number of methods are there. Like you have electrolytic production method, which is very simple by using any electrolyte like potassium hydroxide, KOH, or even any other hydroxyl elements. You can use it as an electrolyte, and you try to split hydrogen and oxygen as different element, but you have to use again some electrical energy. So for that electrical energy, again you have to depend upon the grid. So there is no meaning you can say the renewable energy as a clean form of energy. So in that case, what you can do is you can use solar photovoltaic energy as an input, and you can split the process of that is hydrogen and oxygen molecules separately from H2O. This is what you can really say the system is more and more eco-friendly, or it is a green energy. So this is how you have to think upon different innovative research. So I by this time we can start writing some innovative proposals, because our Department of Science and Technology or Ministry of New and Renewable Energy or UGC is expecting proposals to be on more cleaner form and more greener energy form, because we already had a meeting with the Department of Science and Technology scientist people, and what kind of expectations is from their end. During my project presentation time, I had an opportunity to discuss with these people, and they have thrown few questions, which made us to think still better way to focus our research in a different manner. And next thing is again tank type electrolyzer. Different types of electrolyzing methods are there. And again fossil fuel methods. You can burn the coal and generating the electricity and then driving the system to split the hydrogen and oxygen molecules, because that method is absolutely meaningless, because again you have to go for subbituminous or semi-bituminous coal, again which is having the calorific value is very not up to the appreciable level, and when you burn that you generate more amount of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Again we are going to create threat for the environment, which is absolutely not encourageable. So we still photoelectrolysis is little better, because now we are using the light energy to generate the splitting the hydrogen and oxygen molecules. That seems to be little better. Why? Because of course we say solar is conversion of photoelectric effect, which is nothing but converting the H mu packets of light energy into DC current. The same way, this is also one of the appreciable method for generating or producing the hydrogen. Photoelectrolysis is one of the best acceptable method. I can still show you this first process is actually standard electrolysis process. Of course, this is similar to, so everywhere when you see any electrochemical system, probably you will have anode and cathode, and in between you have diaphragm. So diaphragm will prevent the internal contacts or congestions that is happening in the system. So here, the standard thing that we have to keep in your mind is electrolyte can be any OH elements, that is KOH or any other element could be your this thing. And in between this diaphragm, this can be any like asbestos type of material can be used for the manufacturing of diaphragm. And similarly, the hydrogen molecules, when the cathode and anode should have a very good conductivity. So in order to increase the conductivity, probably you should have to go for a different type of coating. Now you can put down your pen for the second time, that what type of coating material can be used in anode and cathode to improve the overall performance is the next level of research that is going in hydrogen production. So that is a very interesting area where you can focus upon your idea. That is, you can use platinum, you can use nickel, But one problem is that when I say platinum, of course, all women know about platinum, so curious and interest, and you also know what is the price of platinum. So platinum could not be a very good substitute for coating your electrode. So you can think of other elements in your periodic table. Like ruthenium is a very good option to coat your anode and cathode electrode. So you have different other options also. So you can go for some cost-effective material for the coating of electrodes to improves the overall efficiency or overall performance or yield of the system. Here yield is nothing going to be, ultimately you're going to split as hydrogen and oxygen molecules separately. This is the way you generate hydrogen bubbles and oxygen bubbles separately by passing some electricity in the system. Again, this electricity can be taken from any source or any means. Of course, here I have given what is the input energy exactly required. No, you can see that in terms of energy. Theoretically speaking, I have given 2.8 units of energy, kilowatt hour of energy is required to do this entire electrolysis process. But whereas when you practically do this as an experimentation or implementation, the energy demand goes to nearly 5 units of electricity per cubic meter. This means the entire energy efficiency, the entire round trip efficiency of this electrolysis process is going to be nearly 60 to 70%. So what I could suggest is, when you talk about battery storage, now you have to compare different technologies. Why? Because comparison is the inherent habit of every human. If there is another student in one class, we will say, see how this fellow is studying and how you are studying. That is a typical mindset of every faculty that starts from your home. Because if you have some siblings for you, parents will say, see your akka or see your elder brother or elder sister, how he or she is studying. This comparison will be always there. The same way here also we can compare different storage technologies like battery or hydrogen. In that case, people will say, all electrical people will argue, including myself, because I'm also the base of electrical energy background. So people will say, well, battery storage technology is giving efficiency more than 85 to 92%. Why should I go for hydrogen-based storage system for generating power or water? That is really meaningless, because I'm getting only 60 to 70%. Rest of the energy is going as conversion losses. There is no meaning in that, absolutely. So I do agree with the concept what you are telling. But the problem is that the battery is having a very, very high operational and maintenance cost, because after every 3 years, even if it is going to be a residential excite battery or a solar battery or whatever it may be, even if you see the AH capacity, that depending upon your demand, your AH capacity selection will be very high, and at the same time you have to replace that battery system in once in 4 years, or else you have to, even if you say it is a maintenance free battery, definitely you have to go for the different kind of maintaining the systems. Even it is a sealed battery, whatever it may be, it has the validity of only 4 years. But if you install a hydrogen storage tank or a hydrogen system, 100% I can say only the initial investment cost will be a very high, but whereas your running cost and operation maintenance cost is very, very minimum. Even I can say it is zero. The only one thing is you have to have a proper safety valves. That is very important. What is the pressure level that is going to withstand? That safety valve should operate properly. If not, else there is a very big threat is also there, because sometimes if it is exploded, that's all. But this kind of problem is there in electricity also. When you talk about a high voltage DC transmission system, the same threat is there. People say HVDC transmission is better than hydrogen storage, but in my opinion, it is not better. Both are one and the same. Both are equal. So the way how you design your cables, how you design your systems for HVDC transmission, same way you have to define or design your proper safety valves and safety rods and systems, everything in hydrogen storage system, so as to make the system to be more and more safe, and there is no threat of exploding and flammable. That is the only thing, because you have to educate the people. To be very clear, we have actually visited one village that is very nearby to Trichy. There, the people, I just want to share this example because why people are so ignorant. There, when we went to give a talk on solar energy systems, people were telling that solar energy radiations are more dangerous than nuclear radiation. We were shocked to hear this news. Why is it so? Because they are that much ignorant. When they don't know what is even solar energy, it is very difficult for them to teach about hydrogen energy. It's very, very difficult. So at least by this time, we should get a gut feel to start our research on hydrogen storage system and hydrogen production system. And I will, at the end of the lecture, I'm going to give you one interesting research area or research era opening that we can start working right from this day onwards. And I believe that if it is really successful, after some 2 or 3 years, all our power demands and power shortages and excess for water, everything will just come down or will be completely subsided. Of course, I have told why this diaphragm is being used and what are the material that can be used for diaphragm Abraham and all this theory part, I believe that you can just go through all these slides, because I'll be sharing the slide with your coordinators. Probably they can send to all the participants. So again, coming back to the next system. So this is depending upon electrode arrangement. You classify different types of electrolysis. Now, how you suspend the electrodes in one by one in a vertical alternating manner, and how because of that you are separating that is, you are using different. Here one option is there, you can use different electrolytes. Any hydroxyl elements can be used, and based upon that, ultimately you have to see what is the total voltage that is generated from this system, and what is the total current that you are delivering from this system, and at the same time that is the how much input it is taking to split that particular molecules, and what is the total output you are getting from the system. That is very important, because input and output should be balanced. But as I already told, the efficiency is very less, because 30 to 40% is already lost in the system itself. That's why this any kind of electrolysis process is not recommended till today, and it is only in the lab scale level. Okay, these are all some interesting theory portions. Just you can go through the explanations. I will go to the next type of electrolyzer. This is called bipolar electrolyzer, otherwise called as filter plus electrolyzer. This is one of the most important type of electrolysis system that is used. Also, several industries use this particular process of filter pressing, because this is not so difficult like a tank type electrolyzer, because the suspension methodology of electrodes is very difficult in tank type, whereas in filter press type they are very easy, and it's quite because the design cost and manufacturing cost is not so difficult. So again, the development of diaphragm is also one biggest issue. Why? Because the configuration here we are developing is a porous media configuration. So development of porous media configuration is too crucial, because it requires a minute designing knowledge to develop that kind of configuration. So you can go porous configuration, or you can go honeycomb like structures, different structural changes or modifications also you can bring it in. But ultimately here we are using bipolar electrodes. That is the one major advantage, such that the input energy required in this particular process is literally very little on comparing with the tank type electrolyzer. So again, the same energy cost and all these things are discussed over here. Then I will jump out to the next type, that is thermochemical method. Thermochemical method is again still in lab level only, because what to say, because the thermal and the chemical energy, that the fusion of both the energies. But here again, this process is having a very big drawback or limitation, because I've given in the fourth point, you can see that is due to temperature limitation and conversion process equipment, directly single step water decomposition is not possible here. Again, you have some temperature limits to be maintained. Because you can have some thermal indicators or temperature indicators to sense what is the temperature. So and if the maximum temperature go beyond certain degree centigrade, the process will be completely stopped, and it will be a complete chaos one. So in that case, you cannot go for this kind of system. So thermochemical method is also, practically speaking, this is not an advisable method. But you can say little bit it is an energy efficient method. That is one major drawback with respect to thermochemical method. So now this one particular chart is going to give you a very big clear information. So how you are going to produce the hydrogen and how you are going to store. Maybe storage we will see in the upcoming slide, but now we are going to see about how you are producing the hydrogen. Very simple. You want to split the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen separately. That you can use any electricity modality, directly from sun or directly from solar photovoltaic. I have even left the other solar thermal technology also. Sometimes you can generate heat energy, and then you can convert that heat energy into electrical energy, and from there again you can use it for the water molecule splitting. But how much process you are using for energy conversion will finally determine your overall output. That means you should minimize the energy conversion process involved in any systems. That is very important. So here I have shown you all different types of renewable energies. Even sometimes nuclear be used by using any radioactive elements like your thorium, and then your uranium, and like plutonium, like any radioactive elements could be taken, and that could be used for the electrolysis process. That is source of electricity for electrolysis process, and from there you can generate your hydrogen. That is splitting of hydrogen and oxygen elements could be done. So far I have discussed you about what are the different hydrogen production methods alone. But I would like to post a certain question to the participants. What are the different possible different possible hydrogen generation methods are still there other than what I have quoted here? Can anybody answer me in the chat if it is possible? No, other than the methods that we have discussed so far, is there any other methods to generate your electricity? Because I'm expecting answer from. What is the lifetime of hydrogen battery? It's a very good question. I would to Dr. Murugesan sir, I would like to answer this question. The lifetime depends upon the number of cycles. When I say if it is going to be battery storage, it is having 1500 cycles. The hydrogen can even go more than 4000 cycles, but that depends upon the pressure and temperature condition that you are going to operate it. Now, being operated more than 70 bar, I could say 4000 cycles. The lifetime is very, very high. Literally, I can say for 40 years, it will not have any problem or any issues. Directly, it can be operated. What will be the cost? Again, when you say it is as a cost, you have to quantify for what purpose you are going to use, for what application you are going to use. Say, for example, if it is going to be in electricity generation, okay, fuel cell. Okay, I'll be coming to fuel cell, Mr. Dr. Sabari Velu, sir. Just I request you to wait for a few minutes because the next upcoming slide I'm going to be safety of hydrogen fuel. Yeah, that is also there. I will show you a very good illustration now. Besides, I want to know what are the other, now I have completed only hydrogen production methodology. So is there any hydrogen production methodologies available? Yes. The one interesting method, you can generate hydrogen from methane, because methanation process is very good example, because you can generate from methane, but the problem is when you generate from methane, you will be liberating carbon monoxide. Again, that is not environment friendly. Whichever technology is not environment friendly, we cannot say it as a green technology or renewable technology. There itself, it becomes as a non-acceptable form. So when you generate carbon monoxide, CH4, when reacts, it generates carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. So absolutely, there is no meaning to go for methanol. But then one good option is there, because instead of storing hydrogen directly, you can store it in a form of a methanol, CH3OH. That is, storing that in the form of methanol is very, very safest form of storing and transporting. And from methanol, you can generate the hydrogen whenever it is required. So what I would advise you is, in your laboratory, you can start storing it in the form of methanol, and from methanol, you can generate the hydrogen. Don't store hydrogen directly in any laboratory, because if it goes to higher level of operating pressure condition, then the possibility of explosion is very, very, very high. Because even in IIT Kharagpur, there is a one incident that hydrogen laboratory was completely exploded and blasted. So never ever try to take such a kind of risk of establishing a hydrogen laboratory or hydrogen storage laboratory directly. Instead, you can have an option of going for methanol storage system, which is going to be a right option. Of course, what will be the cost? Cost I have already told what would be the cost for the generation. If you're going to generate the unit cost of nearly some 1 to 2 units, probably it is by far equivalent to that of your solar and wind, because the cost is going to be ₹4, not more than that for per unit generation. So of course, the cost is going to be very simple on comparing with different other storage technologies. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. No, this is a very, very interesting and important topic that we are going to discuss upon. Just a moment, I think I'm not able to move with the slides. Some technical fault has happened. Oh. The slide is not moving, it's becoming inactive. Okay, thank you. I think it's just done. Okay, so now I have given you the process. Now, what are the primary methods of producing hydrogen? What are the processes? I'm sorry, that is not stream reforming, it is steam reforming. You can change with the spelling. What is gasification process? What is pyrolysis process? 3 different methods are there: thermal, electrochemical, and biological. With all these 3 processes, by using different feedstocks, how you can generate the energy that is used to split the H2O as H2 and oxygen. These are the different methods I have shown here. And of course, I have already told you methane reforming. So methane, of course, it is, you can see this equation, it is generating carbon monoxide initially and then carbon dioxide. So probably this is not the right method to go. But even then, on considering the safety aspect, definitely we can go for methane based generation or storing methanol in the form and generating electricity, and water is going to be one viable solution. Okay, I don't want to stuck more on production process. I'll just now move on to the safety aspects, which many of you have asked and requested. No, that is when you talk about the fuel cell vehicles. No, I could normally say when you are ready to operate oil-based power plant, or even coal-based power plant, or natural gas-based power plant, then hydrogen-based power plant is not so threat or not so explosive. But the way how you design your hydrogen storage tank, what kind of material you're going to use it, of course, that is going to be the next level of research. I request all the participants to start your research on material development for hydrogen storage tank fabrication, because that is what I'm going to show in my last slide. But before that, we can see one good interesting illustration, because the following picture compares your hydrogen and gasoline fires from an experiment conducted at University of Miami. So it is a very interesting, because you see the left side is hydrogen vehicle and right side is actually gasoline vehicle. So you can see very clearly both are running on the same lane. But when a fire or something, the car on the left contained high pressure hydrogen tank with this much BTU of energy. That is, it's given in Britain units. On the right side, it is conventional gasoline tank with just 5 pins of gasoline. So the spark plugs were instead installed out both the vehicles to ignite the leaking of hydrogen tank and leaking of gasoline line. But you can see the way how this has been completely exploded, because you can see in the last picture, when the fire catches upon the hydrogen vehicles remains the safe, but when you see what is the effect of gasoline vehicle, it is completely blasted out. So this is how you can, 1 minute after ignition, the hydrogen fire nearly extinguished. So this is how you have to see how hydrogen is safe, but even then we think hydrogen is not safe. If you have designed the system properly, the withstanding capability is very, very high. So it won't immediately explode. It will take a minimum time. We can call it the time as tau. Normally you will calculate the tau time period. So how much time is actually, you can write some mathematical correlation for this. How much is the minimum time that is required? What is the ignition time? And based upon the ignition time, how actually the fire extinguishing is taking place. This is one important and interesting theory when you start working on hydrogen safety aspects and safety developments. Even Ministry of New and Renewable Energy in the year of 2018, they have given a guideline for hydrogen vehicle development, which is now till being adopted by Ashok Leyland in the past 2019, and now they are in the process of launching hydrogen vehicles in India. Probably in yet another 5 to 6 years, we can see hydrogen vehicles are being there. In hydrogen stations will be there instead of petrol stations. You will be having hydrogen stations, and many people are telling that no, this will not going to be worked out. Instead of fuel cell based vehicles, probably we will have a battery operated vehicle that is going to be the most competitive one. What I could suggest is the battery operating vehicles is also in part having several problems, because the cost will not be, everywhere the mindset of a human will be more on cost rather than safety. People will say, is it economically viable or not? When I say economically viable, battery is not going to be economically viable, but whereas your hydrogen vehicle is economically viable. The only thing, how you actually place your hydrogen vehicle, how you handle your fuel, because hydrogen is a flammable and explosive fuel. How you handle your fuel and how you store your fuel and how you design your hydrogen stations are going to make a very, very prominent role in the upcoming days to develop your hydrogen vehicle. Okay, now I'll come back to the most important topic which everybody were asking is about the what is actually a fuel cell. So when I talk about a fuel cell, as the name itself indicates, fuel, here fuel is actually hydrogen. So that hydrogen is actually fed in the anode electrode and oxygen is oxidized in the cathode part. So what is actually happening here is the fuel is actually oxidized. Fuel here is actually hydrogen, and oxidant is reduced on the cathode, which is nothing but oxygen. So of course, the travel of opposite ions towards the opposite electrodes. Anions and cations will move towards the opposite electrode, which is having the tendency to attract its counterparts. And automatically, when you apply the some amount of electricity, the electron will tends to go out. That is, movement of free electrons will take place. The movement of free electron is nothing but the generation of electricity. So once the electricity, you can connect some load across the anode and cathode. Any kind of load you can connect it, and you can see, and you can just connect a small multimeter, and you can see what is the level of voltage that you are generating from the system. Voltage and current you can mention. And you can see if you are connecting to any load, you can see how much quantity of current the load is actually sucking. And you can see what is the net output of power also. So which means the fuel cell, one major advantage is It can generate electricity, and it simultaneously, when you feed the hydrogen as the input in the anode, as the fuel in the anode, you can generate also the water as one of the byproduct. That's what I already told in the beginning of my lecture. Not only energy is going to be our demand, water is also going to be our demand. How we are going to generate water, because after some 10 years, how we are now suffering like out of a bio-war, after that we will suffer for water. So it is best to start a research on fuel cell, because in power you can generate water, also one of the byproduct. Besides that, some quantity of Q, that is nothing but some quantity of heat energy, will also be liberated. So there are different types of fuel cells are there: proton exchange membrane fuel cells, solid oxide fuel cells, molten carbonate fuel cells. Suppose solid oxide and molten carbonate fuel cells are very, very high temperature fuel cells. They can even go to 600, 900, even 1000 degrees centigrade of operation is there. In that cases, the amount of waste heat itself you are generating at a temperature of 200 to 300 degrees centigrade. So when you are able to get some temperature more than 200 or 300, you can directly recover that heat energy, and you can use it for multiple applications, for desalination or for building heating. Especially in European countries, we require building cooling, air conditioning, but all the abroad countries or cold countries, they require building heating. So in that case, if you could generate more quantity of heat energy even at the temperature of 200 or 300, store that heat energy in any sensible heat storage system and utilize that heat for particular space heating or any other application. In that means, I can say fuel cell will support you the concept of trigeneration or polygeneration, which means you can generate simultaneously water, simultaneous generation of power, and simultaneous generation of heat energy. Even you can use that heat if it is no low grade level of heat energy. Suppose the energy is less than 100 degrees centigrade, if you're getting as a byproduct, you can use it for water heating. Why should you go for electric geyser? When you go for electric geyser, obviously your electricity bill will keep on increasing. So wherever the possibility, you can cut down your RO system in house, you can cut down the geyser in your house. If everything is possible, only if you have a miniature or prototype of hydrogen storage system in your house, which could operate in a better temperature limit, and that you can get all the three outputs simultaneously. But one and only thing I'm keep on reminding you is you should design the storage system in a better way. Only then you can operate the system in residential application. That's why all the eminent scientists across the globe are still don't have that confidence to go towards this hydrogen storage. That's why they have found another alternative of using methanol storage and methanol transportation as one better methodology. So of course, I have shown you the best equation, how the oxidation process and reduction process is actually taking place. So how it is splitting up into, you can see the electrons, actually the free electrons is generating you the electricity. So how the process is actually taking place. Again, the hydrogen, here fuel is hydrogen and oxidant is O2, that produce the product of H2O and some quantity of Q, some quantity of heat is being generated. Now you can see the animation. So how actually the hydrogen is coming inside and oxygen is oxidized in the cathode part, and because of that, how you are rotating the shaft here, that is going to be the load. You can see how it is actually done for electricity production. So I know probably when we teach something or when we do something, this kind of animation and illustration will make us to give a gut feel of understanding the technology in a better way. So of course, no, I don't want to talk more on advantage and disadvantage, because probably you should be knowing much better than me, because of course hydrogen is no fuel cell vehicle. Only water is being emitted, so no pollution is there. High efficiency, of course, no, without any burning or combustion process, fuel cell is ready to give you the expected power output and expected water output even as a byproduct. And high power density. When you talk about any energy storage devices, probably energy density and power density is going to be, that is how much quantity or how much unit of energy could be accommodated if the given mass of the system is very, very important to determine the performance of any storage device. So that is being one of the important factor when you design or define energy storage technology. So then quiet operation, of course, it does not create any noise or anything like that. So decibel level is very, very minimum, and no recharging is required. Of course, battery requires a recharging and proper maintenance for every year. So that is not there with respect to fuel cell. But again, very, very expensive. That is what I told. Initial investment is very high, but you don't have any maintenance cost. Again, storing pure form of hydrogen, that is generating pure form of hydrogen, is how difficult, and more difficulty is storing the hydrogen is also another biggest difficult part. So I've seen some other message also. Please discuss the size and weight of hydrogen battery, madam. Yes, we'll be discussing that also. The design of hydrogen, no, I haven't shared any particular problems or any kind of design or height or weight, But what you could do is in MNRE website, you have a proper guidelines for designing and developing the hydrogen storage system for a generation of 1 kilowatt of electricity. So for 1 kilowatt of electricity, you can imagine you will be getting 60 to 70% as your output. For that particular capacity, you have to go, or you have to maintain the temperature of temperature level. I'm not very sure, but the pressure level will be of 25 bar. And you can design the capacity. No, you can go even some 20,000 liters of tank. That is going to be a very better ideal solution to generate the expected energy output. So, and also the storage tank material. As of now, the storage tank material is SS or MS, stainless steel or mild steel is going to be the material that you're going to use. SS304 is best choice for the designing of tank. And at the same time, you can use the pressure level should not go than 25 bar. That itself, you have to get some safety standard certificates. So based upon that, you can go for the size of nearly 20,000 liters of tank. That is going to be one ideal option. So what to be discussed? So I will just move on to the next slide. Okay, applications. No, you know all the other known applications are there. So of course, for vehicles, electronic applications, laptops, and all these things, no, all general applications you can just discuss upon. Okay, again, I'm getting some stucking problem with respect to my laptop. I request participants to just stay online. Some problem is there. I don't understand what is the problem. Not able to move the system. Yeah, I'm still yet to discuss so more slides. Actually, I don't know why some problem is there. I think some problem is there. No, I just joined back again in the meeting in few minutes because my my laptop is not moving. So I request the coordinator and participants to just stay for a few minutes. I'll be joining again in the session. So kindly apologize me for the problem, the technical problem that has happened. Sir, can I come back again? So some problem is there. I'm not able to move my slides.
Ma'am, no issue, ma'am. No issue, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I'll be coming back again, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Oh my God. And how your output you are generating, it should be more than 70%. Only then it can compete with battery storage technology. Again, physics option and other bondings, because you are very thorough with what is ionic bonding and covalent bonding. I don't want to go more on chemical aspects. So this is a dream to see. So how our future energy landscape would be completely hydrogen fueling, hydrogen storage, all the industrial applications, all the hydrogen residential storage, and all your primary fueling of cars inside your house. Everything is completely based on the home of hydrogen is going to be our future energy landscape. If all our difficulties with respect to hydrogen storage and production is completely eradicated, we believe that we can have our next future like this. So we all should be very prepared for the war of water in coming day, because it is not a joke. Now we are facing bio-war. Shortly we are going to face the war of water. So should we get prepared, save water, conserve water, and consume water in a better way? That is also very important, because you should have a good, far better health to have a very good immune system, as I told in the beginning. Not only air and energy is important, water is also important, whereas only the fuel cell technology can provide you water as well as your power demand. So start working from today onwards on different types of fuel cells and fuel cell operated vehicles and hydrogen storage systems. That would be more better in coming days. And I really thank the coordinators for such a wonderful opportunity that you have given me to deliver lecture on what is it, your Power Engineering College is rightly doing on sustainable and green technology, and gathered all the participants together, because high time in lockdown we would be more in front of TV and having a very wonderful time with family. But besides all these things, you have taken much effort to come and attend a session, which is really a niche area. So I thank Jagdishan sir, Bhupati sir, and all the other Satish sir and all the coordinators for giving me such a wonderful opportunity. And I thank again Dr. Shakti Vadivel sir for referring me for this session to point out on hydrogen storage. And I believe that I have given my best in this session. Maybe in upcoming days, we will still talk about more other R&D aspects and what actually the funding body is expecting, what kind of way we can go for writing the research proposals, and how to win the proposals, and how to convince the funding bodies to establish our own research laboratory, and how to do justice to the society. And thank once again all the participants for giving me this opportunity. Thanks again.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your most valuable lecture.